Topic name is Basel 2 norms. What is Basel? Basel 2 is a second set of international banking regulations defined by the Basel Committee on the Bank Supervision. Basically, this committee is an international committee which is set by the international members. And the main motive of this, they have to prepare some guidelines, rules and regulations for the banking sector. It is an extension of the regulations for minimum capital requirements as defined under Basel 1. Basically, in the Basel 1, they just provide the funds to the banking sector at least minimum amount. In 2004, the Basel second guidelines were published by BCBS. This organization maintain or prepare some guidelines in 2004 in the Basel second concept. These were the refined and reformed versions of Basel 1 Accord. First, they just review the Basel 1 guidelines. Then, according to the Basel 1 data, then they again they may do some changes in the Basel second guidelines. The guidelines were based on three parameters which the committee called its pillars. Basically, there are three components or parameters of the Basel 2 that we will give the name of is three pillars. First, capital adequacy requirements, supervisory review, and market discipline. These are the three pillars of Basel 2 norms. First, pillar 1 is capital adequacy requirements. Pillar 1 improves on the policies of Basel 1 by taking into consideration operational risk in addition to credit risk associated with risk-weighted assets. First, we have in this we have identified the which risks are occur while we do our task in the organization. It requires banks to maintain a minimal capital adequacy requirement of 8% of its risk-weighted assets. Mean they provide the funds to provide the capital to the bank, and with the help of this amount they can cover the loss, cover the risk. Basel 2 also provides banks with more informed approaches to calculate capital requirements based on credit risk while taking into account each type of assets risk profile and specific characteristics. In the second line, the meaning of this, basically, Basel second provide the numerous techniques approaches to the bank. So, with the help of these methods, the bank authority can easily calculate the capital requirements on the basis of credit risk, because each asset has the risk profile is different and each asset has different characteristics. So it is really need to calculate the risk in which asset you have to invest money. First you have to calculate the risk, then you invest money and operate the task in the organization. This first pillar of Basel 2. Basically, there are two main approaches of this pillar. First is standardized approach, second is internal rating based approach. The standardized approach is suitable for banks with a smaller volume of operations and a simpler control structure. Basically, this approach is suitable for each and every kind of banks. In this way, they can easily control the tasks which are running in the organization. It involves the use of credit ratings from external credit assessment institutions for the evaluation of the credit worthiness of the bank sector. Basically, this approach do the assessment of the organization and they evaluate the position of the bank mean how much banks come under loss or come under loans. What is the actual position of the bank? Internal rating based approach. The internal rating based approach is suitable for banks engaged in more complex operations with more developed risk management systems. There are two IRB approaches for calculating capital requirements of risk based on internal rating. Basically, this term will try to work on the complex activity which may be in these kind of in the complex activity there will be more risk, and they want to develop the risk management system which will control these kind of risk in the activity. So there are two IRB approaches for in the two way we calculate the internal rate based approach. First one is foundational internal ratings based approach. Banks use their own assessment of parameters such as the probability of default, while assessment methods of other parameters, mainly risk components such as loss, given default, exposure at default, and determined by the supervisor. There are two ways that we have to calculate the risk in the organization. First, the first parameter is probability of default. Means we have to find out the probability, how many chances are of the failure of this task. While the other method is mainly we have to identify the risk components, which may be which may become which may be your business will be on loss situation. Risk components such as loss given default, exposure at default determined by the supervisor. These kind of risks evaluated or determined by the supervisor who control the system in the organization. Second is advanced internal rating based approach. Under this approach, bank use their own assessment for all risk components and other parameters. Means bank itself control the risk in the organization. Second is supervisory review. Pillar 2 was as added owing to the necessity of efficient supervision and lack thereof in Basel 1. In the Basel 1, they do not supervise the organization properly, but in the Basel 2, they need to supervise organization in a systematic way or in an efficient way. Pertaining to the assessment of banks' internal capital adequacy, under Pillar 2, banks are obligated to assess the internal capital adequacy for covering all risks they can potentially face in the course of their operations. The supervisor is responsible for ascertaining whether the bank uses appropriate assessment approaches and cover all risks associated. In the Pillar 2, it is the duty of the supervisor. They have to see the bank authority or the bank employer properly identify the risk. Then they have to first they identify the risk. Then they start the activity in the organization. Because if they face any kind of loss, the whole blame will come on the supervisor control who analyze the organization and who is the responsible for each and every kind of risk or each and every task which are running in the organization. So it is the duty of authorities. They have to properly analyze the approaches and they have to properly implement the approaches which help them to cover the risk which are associated with a particular activity or task. The next is again it comes under supervisory review, internal capital adequacy assessment process. A bank must conduct periodic internal capital adequacy assessment in accordance with the risk profile and determine a strategy for maintaining the necessary capital level. Means this rule is applicable in each and every one because on the internal periodic means maybe after 6 months or after 1 year they need to assess the capital adequacy in the organization, and in this way they can easily identify the risk and they have to implement some strategy which help to maintain the necessary capital level in the organization. Supervisory review and evaluation process. Supervisors are obligated to review and evaluate the internal capital adequacy assessments and strategies of bank as well as their ability to monitor their compliance with the regulatory capital ratios. Again, the main work of supervisor, they have to evaluate the internal assessment as well as external. So they properly analyze they think that all the employees properly implement the strategies and analyze the capital adequacy of the organization, and they properly they have ability to monitor the work and they have to complete the task with the proper rules and regulations. Capital above the minimum level. One of the added features of framework is the requirement of supervisor to ensure bank maintain their capital structure above the minimum level defined by the pillar 1. The second main authority, it depends upon the main motive of this norm is they have to provide the capital at least minimum, so at each and every organization can complete the task in a, because if they have money then they can continue business or complete the task. If they don't have money, then they are unable to complete the task. So they have set the criteria that every bank has this capital is minimum, and which they provide to each and every branch, so they can easily operate the functions in the organization. Next is supervisor intervention. Supervisor must seek to intervene in the daily decision-making process in order to prevent capital from falling below the minimum level. So it is a duty of the supervisor. They have to see they have to review the work daily basis, and they take the decision according to the routine activities. In this way, we can maintain a capital, and we do not want our capital come under below the minimum level. We just maintain the level of capital in the organization. We don't want our capital will be reduced. Third pillar is market discipline. Pillar 3 aims to ensure market discipline by making it mandatory to disclose relevant market information. Mean they do not need to disclose the important information in the market. So this is done to make sure that the users of financial information receive the relevant information to make informed trading decisions and ensure market discipline. Basically, there are those people who are working in the market. They need to they receive proper information relating to the market. Like if we start with like import or export, when we have proper information regarding the business. If we don't have market information, then it is difficult for us, for the human being, to run a business in the market. So we have to maintain a proper discipline in the organization. Thank you.